Good day, St. Lucia. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of Uncut. I am your host, Lisa Joa Hill. Today I have in studio Ms. Suyan Hackshaw, the founder or co-founder of PROSAF, an organization that fights and advocates on behalf of women who have experienced sexual violence. If you recall, in a few episodes before, we had a special guest who talked about her experience of domestic violence. So Ms. Suyan, or better known as Sue, is here to tell us a bit more about her organization PROSAF and how women who have been victims of sexual violence can find resources to help them cope. So don't go anywhere. When we get back, we'll have a chat with Ms. Hackshaw. Welcome back. We're here with Ms. Suyan Hackshaw. Suyan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so please tell our viewers a little more about yourself and your organization, PROSAF.
Sure. PROSAF was founded unofficially in 2010, officially in 2011. And PROSAF stands for Positive Reactions Over Secrets and Fears. The whole organization was born to address survivors, victims, thrivers, wherever you are on your journey of sexual violence, in terms of giving support, validation, and education primarily.
Okay, so how did you get involved? Why sexual violence? I know a lot of women, rally behind a certain cause, but there's always that backstory or maybe an experience with a friend or somebody that you know. So tell us.
So I am a survivor. My older half-brother was the perpetrator. And that kind of led me down a pathway. I started doing psychology. I kind of wanted to understand. I did forensic psychology because I wanted to understand the criminal aspect of it. And then after wrapping that up, I didn't know where to go with it. And I guess I don't know, reflection, coming back home, noticing what was missing. I kind of started by putting my story out and sort of saying, this isn't something that you need to be ashamed of. You did nothing wrong, and sort of that's how it started. And then I contacted Vel, who is a longtime friend.
That's Velica.
Velica Lawrence, who is the co-founder, and I kind of said, I'm going to do this. And you can do this or not do this. I'm doing it.
Now that was very brave of you, because what you see oftentimes is that when you come out as a young woman, you get two sides where people are saying, oh my gosh, I am so sorry to hear, and oh my gosh, I am very sorry to hear that you went through that experience with somebody who you would have trusted as a family member. And then you get the other side where people are saying, maybe you're trying to pinpoint something on somebody, try to bring somebody down. How was the reaction the first time when you came out?
I think it was both, because you're always going to get both sides of that. People, on some level, I think many people understand, have had some sort of experience, no matter how subtle, with sexual violence. So a lot of people can relate. But then, because it's something that we don't talk about, it's easier for me to blame the victim.
Right.
Or the survivor or thriver, wherever you're at, and say, well, what did you do? Or why are you now talking about this? What are you trying to get at?
Right. So how long after the acts did you decide to come out and speak out against this?
Years, 15
years later.
Somewhere. I think I initially told my parents when I was just leaving primary school, so that would have been about 11, 12, and then I didn't talk about it again until 2010.
So when you came out, your family is now in the spotlight because people know your surname very well. If you don't mind me asking, how did they take that when you went public?
I don't know, I never asked.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that some people didn't appreciate it, just like I'm going to assume that some people understood why I did it. I never asked because it wasn't about that or
Okay.
them. It was about me sharing what I had been through for me. And so I think that if you ask that kind of question and somebody doesn't want you to do it, then that's going to start playing on you, especially when it's already so tough
course.
to come out and talk about it in the
Exactly.
first place. So I didn't want to leave room for anybody trying to tell me not to do it.
So you
I didn't
had
ask.
that strong support system behind you, or was it just you?
I won't say, I will say a lot of it was me. I kind of decided, I guess my decisions were based on things that happened that sort of put me in a place where it was that, or continue to have mornings where you get up and you don't want to leave the house, and
Right.
you're having panic attacks because you don't want to see him. So it was either talk about it and like take that weight off your shoulders, or continue to not talk about it and pretend that everything's okay to the outside world.
What you're doing is very commendable. I mean, this is my first time hearing that story.
Okay.
I knew there was some background, but wow. So, but why 15 years after? Why did you take so long?
Because I think when something like that happens, you initially get into a space of, let me backtrack. I think it depends on how it's handled when it initially comes out. So when it initially comes out, how it's handled sort of, I think, dictates what's going to follow. And if when it's initially brought up, it's not really addressed, then you go back to like the new normal now, where everybody knows this thing is happening, but we're all going to pretend it's not.
Because you said you did mention it to your people before. Okay, so PROSAF, more than 8 years ago, was founded by you and Velika.
Right.
Tell us more about that organization and what drives you.
Well, I mean, I think we want to give what is needed here, which is support, validation, and education. Survivors of sexual violence, I mean, our society doesn't validate them. Somebody gets raped, molested, and 9 times out of 10, the first question is, well, what was she wearing? Was she drunk? You know, did you misunderstand?
That is so true.
And so we live in a victim-blaming society where no matter what, we're going to blame you for an act that was forced on you. You did something, you were drunk, you were passed out, but you had to have known that this was happening and stopped it. And you didn't stop it, so you wanted it. So we wanted to address that. We want it to come from a place of, we understand what, and we won't ever fully understand what you're going through, but there's similar strains in all of our stories. And so we get some of it. We get what you're going through, what you have been through, and potentially what's to come. And so we want to come from a place of support. We want to educate those that haven't had this happen to them to see what could potentially happen, and to pick up on the signs that if your friend something's going on that you can see. You know?
What are some of the signs that you would be able to identify in somebody else?
There's a change. There's a dramatic shift in that person and their personality. And I can't tell you what it shifts from to what it shifts to, but you can see the change, and it's something that you would notice knowing that person. You may go from being super bubbly to being super depressed. You may go from being an A student to an E student or an F student. But you see the change.
What causes that?
You see that the person may react differently when certain people are in the room. You can tell that there's something else going on. They may not be sleeping. They may be wetting their beds. They may be completely withdrawn from society and friends. They may be making up excuses. They may be pregnant. And then our first thing is to go and say, oh, well, you're fast and you're, I don't know if I can say slutty.
Yes,
but you know, you've been loose all your life. And so, but we don't ever question, well, you're pregnant, what happened? Before we even ask that, we jump to, well, this is how you've been, and you fast, and you wanted to seduce him. And we don't turn around and say, well, you're 14 and he's 30, and what is he doing anyway? We blame you, and we're like, oh, well, you did this. You made him want you.
But we get this a lot. As a woman, and you might be attractive, well, when I say might be, I mean everyone is beautiful, of course. Let me talk about myself. So I would be walking in town, and no matter what I wear, there's just something that shows that somebody from the opposite sex will notice. But how can you avoid that? You cannot avoid it. So when people say you dress a certain way, I could have this granny dress and maybe the wind pass and maybe something shows. I'm just being straight because it happens all the time, no matter what you wear. But a lot of women, you know, find themselves in those situations as victims because the perpetrators, I mean, in most cases, it's that visual for them and they imagine, I don't know what goes on in their head. But people tend to blame the women, you know, maybe you shouldn't have worn this too tight, or maybe you shouldn't have worn this loose dress.
Just shouldn't even, I don't know what they expect women to wear, because I feel like no matter what we wear.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm going to go back to.
There are just people out there who are sick.
But the thing is, I always reference this. There was a young lady that was gang raped in India. And she was completely clothed, but that didn't stop anybody, right? So clothing is not really the thing that makes you do this, right? Whether, if I can't open my mouth to tell you yes because I'm intoxicated, that should be a clear indication that nothing's happening with me. But that doesn't seem to stop you. If I'm a certain age, no matter, and I'm going to say, I was young, I was 14, and I have seen men that were attracted. If I come on to you, I'm not saying that, you know, I may not flirt, but at some point, as an older person, you're supposed to step in and be like, not happening. But you do it anyway, and then you turn around and you say, well, she did this, but it takes two, and you know that you shouldn't because she's a certain age or he's a certain age, but you do it anyway. And we use those things to justify the actions of perpetrators instead of stepping up and saying, yeah, well, you're this age and this person's that age, so that should not happen. This person was passed out drunk, so that should not happen. That person, it doesn't matter if I invited you in, it doesn't matter if I'm your husband or your boyfriend, you have no right to my body.
If I don't invite you.
If I don't say yes, and if at any point when I have said yes, I say no, it is no, because let's be honest, it can start out and I can be into it and something can shift and I can no longer be into it. And I do have a right to say no, just like my partner has a right to say no at any point.
Exactly. Do you find there are a lot of date rape cases? A lot of persons who, you know, may have gone out on the first date and maybe the opposite sex is getting the wrong idea. I'm attracted to you, so we're going out, we're having a good time, and probably you're dropping me home and you try to lean in to kiss me and I'm not ready, and then you eventually, you know, you force yourself. Do you get a lot of those examples or cases here?
I'm not going to say yes or no. I think the entire spectrum is broad. I think overall, there's just too much sexual violence happening, right? From as young as we can think about to as old as we can think about. And I think that we live in a society that does nothing to address it, because we don't talk about it in school. I don't remember talking about it in school.
At all.
And fair enough, that was quite a while ago, but I'm pretty sure if I ask anybody right now, it's not discussed.
You're very correct.
We've done the talks at schools, and boys have a sense of entitlement, and they're taught that if she's cute and I heard that she kissed John, I'm going for my piece.
Yes.
And I don't care if I have to have saran wrap or banana peel. Like, that is scary that a young boy is saying that. And he's saying it in a room full of teachers, Vel, myself, and his classmates. He's not ashamed by that comment.
And these are secondary school
students?
These
are secondary school students. There's also, I mean, we have, our culture fosters it because we don't say anything against it. And when it happens, we hear it on the radio. We're quick to turn around and say, oh, well, why was she walking home? Well, we live in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You take a bus from point A to point B, you get off the bus and you walk. Are you going to say that I caused my rape because I walked home at night?
Right. That is crazy. Well, so we're going to pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the support groups and the services available with your organization.
No problem.
We'll be right back.
If you haven't checked out Ram J's Auto Parts yet, what are you waiting for? We stock a wide assortment of older and newer model popular car and SUV parts. Suzuki, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Nissan, Mini Cooper, and lots more. That's not all. Ramjays also stocks truck and heavy equipment parts. And if that won't help you, we also do heavy equipment rental to keep your downtime at a minimal. Ramjays Auto Parts is located Masad Industrial Zone, Grocery. Contact us 450-0495 or 716-1400 or email ramj35@hotmail.com.
Our Studio Fit and Healthy 911, instructor-led classes that suits all your fitness needs. One-on-one personal training to small groups of 7 or larger groups. Soca Fit, boot camp, high-intensity interval training, indoor cycling, kickboxing, yoga, Pilates, and so much more. Studio Fit and Healthy 911, located in the Vet Clinic building, Bois Groselet, where we defy limits.
Welcome back. You're watching Uncut, and we are discussing a very serious issue. Not that none of the issues that we have talked about aren't serious, but in this case, I've known so many women, friends of mine who have had experiences where they have been raped or, they've been touched inappropriately. So we've talked a lot about, women, the way they dress, and men being the perpetrators. Do you often get men come into your organization talking about their rape cases or their sexual assault cases?
Yes, I won't say often, but yes, we do have male survivors that come forward, and the experience is, at the end of the day, similar regardless.
Really?
It's a violation of your body. So, obviously, the way that it happens is going to be different from a woman in certain instances, but it is a violation, and the trauma of that violation is what sits with you regardless of male, female, or anything in between. So
yeah, but I can only assume that the reason why most men don't come out is because they think they're going to be laughed at, and
that
it's
is
not
correct.
Macho.
That is correct. I feel with I'm gonna also include same-sex relationships. So when it comes to same-sex relationships and males, we don't find too many coming out, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the culture again, because while United and Strong is making strides, we're very Catholic, and so we don't acknowledge in a lot of ways same-sex relationships, and as a result, if something happens to you in that, then you're in the wrong kind of relationship anyway. So
right,
where do you go for help? And then if you're a man and you come and you say, a man raped me, then are you gay?
Yeah.
Did you send that vibe out? Is that why that happened? Then you're
Exactly.
just ashamed now?
But this happens
Or
with a
if
lot
it's
of
a
the younger
woman,
guys too.
and if it's a woman, then a woman overpowered you? What kind of man are you? So for men, I think it's more difficult because your masculinity is put on trial immediately, regardless of who the perpetrator is. So right away, it's either you just don't want to tell us that you're truly into the same sex, or are you a wimp? Like, that woman raped you? How? Like, what kind of man are you? It's a woman. How is that rape?
Right, so they will just suppress and go about their business, probably dealing with these things.
I mean, I think a lot of survivors do that regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, because the culture is just not supportive. And it makes it difficult to come out.
Yeah.
When Vil and I came out and shared our stories, it was we're looking for attention, or we're a couple, so now we're looking for attention. So people will find a way to justify the
Why you
act
should
of
not
somebody
talk
else,
about it.
and it's a horrible act, but you'll find a way to justify that. But
Yeah, and I would say too, it's because, you know, there are also many cases where, let's say, women have come out and accused somebody who is maybe high in society or, you know, has some sort of position, and that indeed would have been dismissed on some cases because you're looking for attention or you're trying to sue for nothing. So people are of that assumption that, you know, every case is probably like
well,
that.
I will say, I'm not going to take away and say that nobody ever says that they were raped when that wasn't the case. I'm not going to say that. I will say that the large majority, this is my
happens.
figure, I'm going to go with 95%,
Okay.
don't make this up. Because of the trauma associated with talking about this, the trauma that you live through on a daily basis, the fact that you now know you're struggling on a daily basis of whether I should actually tell anybody, and then your thoughts now no longer become about you and how you're dealing, but about how everybody else is going to cope with this thing that was done to you. And then if I tell my friends, will they, because maybe he's this perfect guy or she's this perfect girl and everybody sees them in one light.
Exactly.
And so you spend all this time focused on that, and then you don't want to share it because
You're thinking about everything else but yourself.
but also you can't take somebody coming at you and saying you wanted this. You don't want to get that. I'm coming to you for support. It's taken a lot for me to come and sit across from you or pick up the phone to call you. And if you're going to say anything other than I'm here to support you, what do you need? It's going to be a pointless conversation, and I'm probably not going to call anybody after that, because if you're going to tell me, am I sure this happened? Did I misinterpret? What was I wearing? Was I drunk? I'm going to end the call.
Right.
Because now you're blaming me. After whoever did this
Exactly.
already blamed me, you're now blaming me, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to be my friend, my
Supporting,
support, my
of
family.
course. Yes. So we have the rape cases. What are some of the other examples of sexual violence that you know, persons often come to your organization?
I mean, there's
about?
incest, there's marital rape, although some people think that because you're married, that means that can't happen.
And not necessarily the actual sex penetration.
And there's, right,
but
so there's
even
always
groping
there
and
is
touching.
right, and there's that, and then there's the attempt. So somebody may have pulled you into an alley or a bush or in a room, and it didn't actually go through because somebody stepped in, but the fear of that
That's
nonetheless is
sexual
traumatic,
violence,
and
exactly.
that is, it's not to be dismissed because you weren't actually penetrated.
And I know there are a lot of cases in the professional, well, in the workplace, where a lot of younger persons fall victim to sexual harassment, sexual violence in the workplace, but because it is your boss, you're not going to speak out. And men too, where maybe even a grown woman, you know, is taking advantage of a younger man who is attractive, and the men, of course, will feel like, you know, I can't talk about that because that's my boss, and, you know, they feel inclined to give in because that's where their bread is coming from.
Exactly.
I assume you get those
Exactly.
examples
Yes.
as well. Where is your organization located? Do you have a physical location?
We do not currently, not yet. We are working on that. We got registered officially last year, so we're
Okay.
taking baby steps up. We're in the process of sort of doing our training so that everybody that's with us can do crisis counseling for anybody that approaches them. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And then we do educational talks and
Okay.
one-on-one counseling.
And what sort of educational talks, the counseling, are these, what other examples of support that you provide for victims?
We have done support groups in the past. We haven't done one recently. I think we'll probably look at it, but it does depend on how many people come forward to do a support group. And so, I mean, generally, that's what we do. I do the articles through the Voice newspaper every
Yes.
weekend, and that acts as validation and education for any survivors or anybody that knows somebody that has gone through this. And then we have, our website should be up and running soon. We do have all the social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then we do one-on-one counseling. So our numbers have been out from day one with the articles, and pretty much people reach out day or night.
So your background is forensic psychology.
Yes.
So you're a forensic psychologist.
Yes, with I just completed my master's in social work recently.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, wow. How have you, okay, so you got registered officially last year, but you have been in operation or actively advocating for more than 8 years. Have you received government support? Is the government aware of your organization? What are some of the things that you've done out in the public sphere to get people to come on board and support the cause? You're smiling.
Yes, because I always like this question.
Okay.
So honestly, there's been no government support. Minus gender relations. Gender relations has supported us from day one with pretty much whatever we've needed.
Okay.
Ms. Gasper has been amazing throughout it all, throughout the journey.
Support in terms of what? What do they
whatever
normally
we
come
needed,
on
to be
with?
quite honest. And then and human services has helped out a little bit in certain areas. And so those have been the most helpful places. Primarily, like I said, it has been gender relations.
In terms of funding?
Not funding, in terms of just support. When we needed a letter from a governmental organization for the registering of our nonprofit, they stepped up.
Okay.
When we've needed any type of support from the time we started, from statistics to having meetings, they've accommodated us as much as they could have over the years. That has been the extent in terms of government help. There's a lot. I find it hard to believe that nobody knows about us, because we have tried to arrange meetings with everybody over the years.
Everybody, as in?
Every ministry that you could think of that is related to sexual violence. And you get to the point where you're literally standing outside the ministry about to walk up when they call you and say, oh, I'm sorry, 5 minutes before the meeting, we can't do this.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you think this happens often?
Because sexual violence is not a concern for our country.
Wow, that's a very
I'm being
bold
honest,
statement.
because if it was, we would be doing more.
Of course.
We don't talk about this in school. We don't, I mean, what are the laws really? Like, nobody really knows, right? So we're not educating the public. And our 1 or 2 PSAs we have every now and again are not helping.
Are you saying human services is not doing enough?
I'm saying everybody's not doing enough. I'm saying everybody's not doing enough. And it's probably because we have no funding dedicated to this.
Yeah,
You
so
know?
how do you get to pay your facilitators? How do you get to pass on that experience?
We don't have trained, I mean, the thing is, sexual violence is not like everything else. You can't, it's not a band-aid where you can be like, oh, well, I'm trained, so yeah, you can't deal with everything. And that's why no matter what you are in whatever profession, you get training in specialized areas. Because they require more attention, right? With sexual violence, you have to know what to say. You have to, it's crisis management, crisis counseling. You're dealing with somebody who's lived through trauma, who's continuing to live through trauma, who has been micromanaging their life around this thing for God knows how long. And if they haven't, and if they're a child, then their whole world has imploded, and now they're dealing with this. So yeah, we need more. We need counselors that are going to be properly trained. We should invest, because our entire income revenue is based on tourism. I'm not coming to a country when I'm hearing that people are getting raped every which way. I'm not doing it. And so you would think that if we're going to spend money to make St. Lucia look and sound beautiful, that we would also address the fact that there are problems. Every country has problems,
for sure.
right? But we also need to find a way to address it properly. So should you get raped while you're in St. Lucia, I'm not going to say that you're never going to get raped. But if you do get raped, we have a plan of action. We don't have a plan of action right now.
So is it just your organization focusing or zoning in on sexual violence?
I think
to the extent that you're...
We do it differently. So to be quite honest, I do think everybody has their own niche. But
what are the other organizations, though, that are non-governmental?
I guess... just give me a moment to think about some right now.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
There are a few. I'm just all like caught up in my anger right now.
You're angry.
So that's.
Why
just,
are you so angry?
Because, like I said, this is a topic that requires attention, right? If I rape somebody, I'm a rapist. I rape and I go to prison. What happens when I'm in prison? Like, we have no plan of action. So I am now just gonna do I get rehabilitated? Do we attempt to talk about this with you? Do we counsel that prisoner that, you know?
But we're not sure what is really happening in there. We don't know. So
there's no counseling for
I'm
that.
happy you touched on the rapist. What do you think about a sex offender registry becoming public?
Again, this is my own personal opinion, not PROSAF related. I think it's necessary. I also think, though, that you can't just do that. We have to have a full circle.
Exactly.
So you can't have a sex offender registry if we have no way to process the rape kits.
And no
if we have
as well.
no rehabilitation, if we have no way of fingerprinting and keeping, like, what's the point? A sex offender registry for what?
Well, we have a forensic lab that is active.
Yeah.
So is your organization working with them?
Yes, we do. We have, we actually did a presentation with them recently, I think maybe a month or two ago. And I do know that they see this as a problem and they want to address it. But this is a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly.
Like, you can't just...
It's more than just one organization.
Yeah, the sex offender registry is a great idea, but you have to have the support for that, because we also don't want, not that it happens right now, but we don't want vigilante justice. It's not happening right now, so I don't see it happening then.
Yes.
But we have to prepare for that, right? And so we also have to figure out, are we going to get those rape kits processed in a timely fashion? So that if I get raped and I say Jack raped me, and we get Jack's DNA, does that follow? And if it's not Jack, how are we going to figure out? Well, maybe it might have been John who was there with Jack. Right? So we have to have people that are trained to, when I come on the scene and I see a rape victim, that I'm not going to make them feel worse about not being able to remember certain things, or saying things that are going to make them feel worse, or yeah.
I understand, Sue. We don't have much time left, and I know for sure we're going to get you back on the show, but we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about some of the resources we can access right here in Seeing the Show.
If you haven't checked out Ramjay's Auto Parts yet, what are you waiting for? We stock a wide assortment of older and newer model popular car and SUV parts. Suzuki, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Nissan, Mini Cooper, and lots more. That's not all, Ramjay's also stocks truck and heavy equipment parts. And if that won't help you, we also do heavy equipment rental to keep your downtime at a minimal. Ramjay's Auto Parts is located Masad Industrial Zone, Grocery. Contact us 450-0495 or 716-1400 or email ramj35@hotmail.com.
Are Studio Fit and Healthy 911. Instructor-led classes that suits all your fitness needs. One-on-one personal training to small groups of 7 or larger groups. Soca Fit, boot camp, high-intensity interval training, indoor cycling, kickboxing, yoga, Pilates, and so much more. Studio Fit and Healthy 911, located in the Vet Clinic building, Bois Groselet, where we defy limits.
Welcome back. Let me tell you all the passion and drive that I'm seeing behind the scenes with Sue is incredible. And Sue, I have to commend you. I did it off camera a while ago, but I have to say this. This is incredible. You are a unique case because young women, gorgeous young women, are afraid to come out and talk about this. Women in general are afraid to come out and talk about this. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it took 15 years, you're still coming out. And what you're doing, you know, is really giving someone out there some form of encouragement that, okay, maybe this happened to you years ago, but a lot of people who have been coping with this for so long, it has affected almost every aspect of their lives, can now, you know, find support in an organization like PROSAF, you know, and get it off their minds, get it off their chests, and really seek help. Have you gotten support from organizations outside of St. Lucia? Or have you traveled to attend any conferences or events?
I have, but I guess it's because we're still sort of a baby organization in that for a long time it was just Vel and I. And we did everything from the support groups to the one-on-one counseling. We kind of kept it small. We're now hoping we're beginning to build and include more people in our circle to allow us to grow. I don't anticipate not getting help from organizations, because when I have been at other conferences and I have approached people, everybody's been interested and willing to help in whatever way that we need it. We just haven't we haven't been in a place. I don't want to ask for help until I know I can put it to good use. The British High Commission gave us a grant. They were actually the ones that allowed us to be able to do the talks through the schools, because they covered that in a grant. So we used half of the grant for that, and the other half.
You got funding from an outside source to do counseling sessions in our schools. Yeah,
we did to do talks on the
topic.
Why
I'm laughing. I'm like,
I was. And then we used the other half for. We did some talks through GIS. And so we used the other half of the funding for that. And so that's been the extent of it. I'm not going to say that we can't get. We haven't pushed in that direction yet, because for us the important thing is making sure that whoever's in the circle that's going to represent PROSAF is properly trained. We're all human and we are going to make mistakes even with a client in front of us, but it is important that you're trained and that you're comfortable enough in yourself to, if you make a mistake and say something insensitive, which we do, we're human, that you're able in that moment to say, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. And so for us, it's the most important thing is making sure we have a strong team before we start to move outward.
So if you were some organization contacted you, let's say after watching the show, and want to donate or want to fund your initiative, would you have the facilitators ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So how can we contact PROSAF?
Like I said, the website's down. It should be up, I want to say, by end of August. Facebook, if you look for us at PROSAF on Facebook, you'll find it. The newspapers have our numbers. The email address is ssaitco@Hotmail, which is Surviving Sexual Assault in the Caribbean organization.
SSAITCO at Hotmail.
Right.
Okay.
And like I said, it's on the Voice. If you read the newspapers, then it's in there. It is on the website. You can contact us through Facebook. Our numbers are on there. Mine is 724-9991. Vel is 723-6466. You can reach out to us, and we're there to hear and listen, basically.
As PROSAF.
PROSAF.
Remind us what that stands for.
Positive Reactions Over Secrets and Fears.
Over Secrets and Fears. Well, St. Lucia, there you have it. Miss, I almost called you by your name before marriage.
My husband will understand, don't worry.
Okay, so Mrs. Hackshaw, Sue Hackshaw, is qualified in her area. So if you are somebody, or if you know someone who is struggling with finding resources to, you know, to get help for an experience that they have been through, sexual violence, sexual assault, you can reach out to PROSAF. I mean, there are other organizations who are trying and doing the best that
Yes.
they can.
Yes.
But we know that, you know, you have a genuine interest in this, you have a drive, you have a story. So I can see that a lot of young women and men out there can relate and feel more comfortable knowing that, you know, there's somebody there that they can talk to. So thank you so much for coming on
Don't
board.
mention it.
I would love to follow up with you soon
No problem.
to find out, you know, what the show has done, if we are getting other organizations who are saying, okay, we want to come on board, we want to support you, we want to support what it is that you're advocating on behalf, because we need it. We need it. We are seeing a society where our young women are becoming more liberal and free and comfortable with their sexuality, but that does not give you the right to touch them. That does not
Exactly.
give you any right to, you know, make fun or, you know, even the verbal abuse can,
Exactly.
you know, that
It's
can
not
really
an
affect your
excuse
mind.
for,
Exactly.
for anybody abusing anybody, male or female, because while we focus a lot on women, we don't only deal with women. So I don't want to make it sound like we're only talking about women, but across the board, if something's happened, reach out and sort of just know that you didn't do anything to cause this, and you are not defined by it.
Right.
I always like to let that be like the last thing that I say, because you tend to think, oh my gosh, this is it, and everything sort of revolves around that in every aspect of your life. And I'm not saying it's easy, because I have good and bad days, sometimes more bad than good, but you kind of have to go through the process.
Yes. And your experience can really motivate somebody else, for sure. So it's quite commendable, very commendable that you come out and you talk about this. So thank you again for joining us.
Don't mention
St.
it.
Lucia PROSAF's information will be viewed on the show at the end of this episode. You will find out how you can contact Miss Suyan Hackshaw and Velica Lawrence from PROSAF. Again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.